Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a podcast that takes education to new heights. Welcome again. I am Coach Sakile, the proud co-founder of Embrace Your Free, and your host for the Learning Outside the Box, the Homeschooling Chronicles. And as a wife and mother of six incredible world schooling children, I've embarked on a homeschooling journey that has transformed our lives into a mind expanding, family bonding, and self exploratory adventure. And let me tell you, it's been a journey I wouldn't trade for the world. So, with over 2 decades of experience in homeschooling, I have had the privilege of assisting over 7,000 families on their homeschooling and world schooling paths through coaching, consulting, workshops, and more. Additionally, I operate the vibrant and empowering Black Homeschoolers Unite community where we unite and uplift Black families on their homeschooling journey. So today I'm thrilled to present to you Learning Outside the Box, the Homeschooling Chronicles. So if you're a Black family who's curious about homeschooling or simply want to learn from experienced homeschoolers who are doing amazing things, then you've come to the right place. At Learning Outside the Box, the Homeschooling Chronicles, we celebrate the diversity and creativity of Black homeschoolers. We showcase a variety of different stories from homeschooling families who have found their own unique path to success. Because let's face it, homeschooling is all about learning outside the box. There's no one size fits all approach to educating our children. And we're here to prove it. Through our interviews and conversations, we aim to answer your burning questions about homeschooling and provide you with the inspiration and ideas to make your own homeschooling journey a success. So join us on this exciting adventure as we explore the world of homeschooling one story at a time. Together, we'll learn and grow and discover the endless possibilities of homeschooling outside the box. So, without further ado, let's embark on this thrilling voyage and let's give a warm welcome to Artist Christina, a second generation homeschool mom who faced the challenge of creating a flexible routine and debunked many homeschooling stereotypes. She will share transformative power of the family bonding time, the importance of children having the opportunity to just be a child and experience the freedom of flexibility and the benefits of connecting with community and extended family on a regular basis in today's episode. So let's welcome Artist Christina.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. So happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
Hello. Yes, it's so great to have you. So tell me a little bit. Let me see really quickly. Can you see the screen? Let me know in the
Yeah.
chat if everyone can see. Okay, I see. Ready. Okay, Christina, it's ready. So let's get started. So, again, welcome. And I know you're a second generation homeschooler. How many children are you homeschooling at this time?
Well, only one is mine.
Oh no. Okay, technical issues is happening. I think being in Mexico and dealing with the storms and all of that has slowed things down. But hopefully people can hear now. Yeah, okay. Nina says she can see. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Nina. So let's go. So tell me, so you said you're homeschooling one, and do you have a son or a daughter?
I have a daughter, and she just turned 6 this year.
Oh, nice. A
So,
6-year-old
I guess
princess.
that's what
That's
grade. We don't
amazing.
really go by grades, but I think it's around first grade.
Yes, I understand. Because we're homeschooling children that are six and they're doing, fifth grade math. And there's some that are six that are doing second grade English. So, yeah, it's wonderful that you can cater to your own unique child's needs. So, tell me, as a second generation homeschooler, what inspired you to continue on this homeschooling journey with your daughter?
Well, I tell a lot of parents, especially since some are like undecisive or they come to me, should I do homeschooling or should I not? And I honestly told them was like, the beautiful thing about homeschooling is it's flexible. I didn't know I'd be homeschooling in the past. I just made it work. I just knew it was something I really wanted to do. And it was honestly a decision I made after becoming a teacher. So a couple of thousands of kids later, and then when I had my own daughter, that I realized like this would be great after everything I've acquired and all the knowledge and all the teaching methods I've seen, that it was going to be a perfect fit for us if I could homeschool the first few years like I had in school. And it was honestly after doing a lot of self-reflection on my own homeschool journey and all the benefits I got from it that I didn't think other teaching methods would give my daughter the same advantages of.
Makes sense, And you were telling me that before that you not only are a second generation homeschooler that are providing all of these advantages. You mentioned that you were a teacher beforehand and you come from three generation of educators. Can you tell me a little
Yes.
bit about that? How is that growing up as
Not great
a
when you get in
child
trouble.
that was surrounded
I
by
definitely think that especially since you're around people who are constantly getting educated. I mean, they're always pursuing something. They're writing papers, they're going for their masters. They were principals, we had teachers, we had ministers. And if you're around that mentality of you're always a learner and you're never really finished, it's pretty contagious. And there's not many fields that you would just flow into naturally. But I feel like it was wonderful growing up, especially since you had so much support. You didn't have to go far to look for a tutor. You had older siblings or someone else around. So you felt a lot of, I got this, not only because you felt independent with your work, but because you knew there was also others who didn't mind stepping up, coming in with their perspectives, their resources that they had for years. So I say that from homeschooling, but I also say that with my teaching career, that I felt very supported and I could easily turn to someone, whether I was doubting myself or just needing tips or help. That I always felt it was really great having so many years in one room of so many other teachers' experiences and their insights, to just always be able to have a conversation with them and kind of fuel off of that.
That is phenomenal. So it sounds like you were raised to be a lifetime learner, and learning became fun. It's just like who you are. So it's just part of your culture growing up, educating, learning, and writing and doing all of that. So now you're able to pass this on to your daughter. So you were mentioning that, after educating thousands of children, you understood that there was so many advantages to homeschooling. So can you tell me about some of the perks that you have found as a homeschooler or and a second generation homeschooler?
Yeah, and I think um, one of the major ones is taking advantage of your community. I think a lot of kids, they'll tell me they've never been to local museums before. They didn't know there was these statues in their area, that they don't know about a lot of smaller buildings, what's going on at their local libraries. I mean, taking advantage of just what's in your community is one of the biggest advantages, because you don't have to cancel anything. You just go, you can just coordinate, you can be part of your community garden, you can go to your parks and recreations, you can go to private lectures that are going on the colleges without being a college student, that are open to the community. So I think one of the best parts is that you get to incorporate a lot of what's trips, museums, a lot of other people into your curriculum. It doesn't have to just be mom and daughter. It gets to be other people teaching your kids skills, maybe just including them in larger projects, especially on a public stand. I think it's been really nice just seeing my daughter enjoy going to First Fridays, which is a science night that we have here, and an arts night, and just getting to see her be an actual like steward and telling other kids like, this is cool, we do this all the time, and just seeing her so excited about some of the programs she's been a part of, or theater giving her so much confidence. It just gives you a perspective that not all electives need to be in the background. They can be in the foreground, that volunteering, helping out at your daily bread or another food shop that you might have in the area, it can be part of your curriculum. And it's been really nice because I think it teaches kids to remember to be mindful, to teach them more than just what's in textbook, what life is really about. So I feel like that was the top thing that I was just super excited about being able to do in elementary school, is teach what's community. And then of course we're getting family too.
I
And then I
love
guess,
that. I love that
yeah,
so much. Because sorry, there's a little lag.
I paused. I was
It's
like,
just
oh,
like sometimes what the heck tech, you just have to laugh.
but I think that's the main one.
It's
I was
all
helping with
good.
like,
But
yes,
I
really
love
good too.
everything that you. Mhm. It is. Because when it comes to homeschooling, there isn't that differentiation. It's like you're parenting and educating. And a lot of times people don't realize that you are educating your child from birth. I mean, they're learning how to speak, to walk, they're learning social cues before they enter the school. So even if you don't think you're a homeschooler, you are educating your child. You are your
At
child's
all.
first teacher. And I love how you incorporate so much at all times. And I love how you incorporate the experiential learning component, because from studies, I was reading that children retain 90% of what they do. They retain 90% of what they experience, as they only retain 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, and 30% of what they see. But if they're going and volunteering, they get to see their community, have compassion and understanding. If they're going to the different science museums, it's not just something you're learning in the book, it's coming to life. It's something that's all around them. So it's fun, it's engaging, they want to learn more. So I love what you're doing with your daughter. I think it's really key to really making education fun and memorable and relevant.
Very, very much
So
so.
we talked about some amazing benefits. Mhm. Yeah, I agree. So we spoke about some amazing benefits. So can you tell me about some of the challenges? Because even though we want to think that homeschooling is just all sunshine, rainbows, and butterflies, challenges happen. So what were some of the challenges that you faced as a homeschooler?
I think it's like one of the top questions of what do you do first when you start homeschooling? And honestly, the hardest thing to get going, especially with little ones, is a routine. And I feel like we're saying that from the time they're a baby on up, but it's so true. Just getting them, this is what we do in the morning, this is what time we're going to do this. It is hard. It is not a walk in the park, and they're still developing, of course, so they're having breakdowns, they're asking questions, and you can't just go out the door. Anyone's even experienced that with a toddler knows you're not just walking out the door. There's like a million things to do just to get one task done. But a routine, sometimes just when it finally starts flowing and you get that day to day, this is what we're doing, this is what time breakfast is, I expect you to get this amount of work done, I need quiet time so mommy can take a business call and you could go play with your toys and don't come in there for any reason. It's so hard. But it's one of those things that I focused on because I knew without a routine it wasn't going to work. And I love my business, I love what I do, I love teaching and sharing arts and being an advocate, but If only people could see what's going on underneath your desk. I bet dog, the kids, something always happening behind the scenes. And it's, I always thought it's like a video. You can edit things out just by smiling through it. If only they knew what I was looking at behind the camera going on in my house sometimes. But I would think that was the most difficult part, is you're still mom, even when you're handling work and on the phone, you're peeking in the curtains because you walked out on your porch to take a phone call, but you're still keeping an eye on the kids at the same time. It was a labor of love for certain, but I definitely think finding my rhythm was the hardest part with all of it, just because I had a lot of passions, but making them all work together is difficult.
Absolutely. That is a big challenge for many, many parents, being able to juggle it all. That's why I have like a course and a workshop called The Juggle is Real. Being able to, balance homeschool, life, work, all of those things. So, what are some things that you put into place to help you with the balancing it all, creating that harmony so that you can be the mom, be the homeschooler, be the businesswoman, the advocate, and all without, pulling your hair out?
And I think that would go back to why I love being a second generational homeschooler. That's something else they passed down was, mom was like a superhero in our eyes growing up. Mom could do it all. And my passion, my ability to work so hard, to share, my love of teaching came from my family. So it really is just kind of like passing down a tradition, because you already knew from having siblings, which I have 7. So I knew, looking at my brothers, I loved looking at what they were working on and getting interested, but it's how you start fostering passion in your kid to love what they're doing, to respect their home, to respect their work, to say, this is my job for now and I'm proud of it. If you have a kid who's interested in their imagination, their play, and they are proud, they're happy, they're always sharing what they're working on, it just helps a whole lot when you're homeschooling, because they don't see it as just get this worksheet done because mommy and daddy said so. They see it as an opportunity to share something with you, to learn something, to be proud of themselves for a moment, which brings up why I loved working with Montessori and other studies outside of public school, because they're really focusing on the fact that it's about who you are first. It's not about training them to memorize a whole lot of things at that age. You need to first start training them about, hey, this is your body, this is yourself, this is your spirit, and how you look at things and how you take care of your work and how you do it matters. And they learn that from your parents. How I act when I get frustrated, they caught me. They're watching you. How you act when you don't know something and they see how you solve that problem. That's a huge lesson that is invaluable, that your kids are picking up on from parents first. And I'm very grateful that I learned that lesson at a young age from my own mom, because I knew it with my own daughter. I was like, she's watching you. Even when you think they're not picking up on something, they're watching how you do it. Even if they don't understand all the little details, they're watching the emotions on your face, and they're watching how calm you are and how you go about step-by-step handling things. So that would just be the one I would take if I had to think of the big one.
Yeah, that was really, really powerful. I mean, yes, that is amazing. Because, yes, children, they watch what you do. Not They do what you do, not what you say.
Really, that
So,
one.
and that goes across the board. So, yes. And so whenever my children do something that upsets, I remember that upsets my husband, he always is like, okay, they're either getting it from me or my wife. Me or my wife.
And that's
So
hard.
if
It's
this is
so hard because
something
we
that
have
we
to
want to
do it.
change, we need to work on ourselves.
Exactly. Because we got to always like say, where did they get it from? Oh, wait, we're the parents. It's like, we know where the sources are, which is the same thing. Like I even tell them with like my thing with technology and things like that. I don't want them being a parent of my kid. That's probably why we limit it so much, because it's another voice. It's another person for them to copy, and they absorb things at this age, every little single thing. So it's important just to be dumping what we how we want them to treat the world and how do we want them to act is just such an important first lesson, just because I love my community and everything else. But confidence is something I always keep bringing up with teenagers that they're seeing a lack of in a lot of middle schoolers, especially of where are they losing their self-esteem? Why do these kids not care about their work? Why are they so frustrated? They're into their phones. They don't seem attached to what's going on to anything around them. And I feel like as a parent, that's my responsibility. That was a very important thing to make sure I instilled in my own child, because I didn't want to see that. And it was one of the largest things that was made me uncomfortable with working with a lot of school age kids. And the ones who did have it, I give credit to their parents, because they definitely could say, Mom, Dad told me this, or someone other, like a mentor, like another aunt or uncle, but they had examples of it in their family and they were able to latch on to that. And that's a big blessing, that if you can do that for your kid, whether it's a grandparent or any other kind of mentor, like whether it's a close friend, I think that's super important if you want to have a passionate learner out of your child, because it starts there first.
Absolutely. I agree 1000%. Family, if you see me looking down, it's not that I'm ignoring. I'm just taking notes and notes and notes and notes and notes. So I highly suggest, like, Artist Christina is dropping the nuggets. So I'm taking copious notes, and I highly suggest you do too. Okay, because it's not just first generation information. She's sharing second generation, what she experienced and what now she's passing on to her daughter, which is really, really powerful. And I agree with you completely. When we were looking to decide what type of teaching style we wanted for our children, it was really in their younger years. A big part of it was more like the Montessori Waldorf approach, where we didn't have any technology. There was no TVs, there was no tablets, there was no computers. We just had lots of manipulatives, books, puzzles, board games. We had Legos, arts, the craft pots and pans, gardens. So, yeah, they're learning to play instruments, all of that. And still to this day, like our 21-year-old has a cell phone, but our other five children, like we have twin 19-year-olds, they still have not had a cell phone. We do some lessons because our children are learning coding and all of that, but they'll get the computers, they'll do the lessons, and they take it back to our bedroom. Like, so they don't have access to it 24/7. And we don't do television. We still have like tons of activities. And I noticed people are just like, your children, they're so confident. They like came up to us
That one right there.
as an adult and start having conversations. Teenagers never come up to have talk to each other or play a board game or go play basketball or do something together. So they're when they don't have all the technology, because they're forced to communicate and interact with those around them in their environment. Yeah.
And you already probably like
So I
me,
love
I see
everything that you were
so many
saying.
studies still telling parents, especially, I love video games. I love TV. I have so many shows I love watching, but I definitely felt like it's a good family time thing, not an all day thing. It's not a babysitter in the least bit. It's a great tool, but I definitely think it needs to be parent led. I always tell parents, of course, my daughter has YouTube videos she's seen, but I pick them, I look at them. She's not viewing content without me around, because the best firewall in the world is you. And I think people who think technology is ever going to be a better judge than the parent, no. I've seen ads that I disagree with that they say is kid approved by some company. And I'm like over here shaking my head. No, it's not. And YouTube Kids, I was one of those teachers that parents asked, do we use YouTube Kid? And I was like, no. I said, I've watched YouTube Kid, and I'm not quite certain how it counts as an educational program, but I disagree. I was like, I think there's better out there. And I think there's smaller content creators who have made better information and interactive tools for kids to use. But I definitely think the internet is like an open door to too much, and too much of things you don't need. Especially to kids who are, poor things, addicted. They're getting angry apparently from their amount of electronic usage because it's that prominent. And I'm like, something else needs to be prominent in your life than your phone. If you're fighting over a phone, you need to take that phone away. That's too much phone time. But I don't want to say I'm against technology, because I am a huge robotics fan and I love gushing over 3D printing and things like that. I just think it's about choosing the right kind of technology and using it with, you family-led, with value-led usage of the internet, because it can be a great tool. And I just think it's sad. Like, for example, I had a conversation with someone else with, like, all the answers are there, but you still get kids who use technology daily asking, what time is it, Alexa, or what is this, Google, or what day of the week is it? And I'm like, you don't know? So like, that's not what technology is for. And I definitely don't want it to be a handicap in her curriculum. I want it to be a tool that she turns to utilize the research and find things out, but definitely not for things that ought to be taught. And I think when it comes in too soon, that's what we're seeing, is a reliance on it to answer simple questions, not complex questions.
Absolutely. I agree completely. So my husband talks about like the cookie jar effect. So we didn't want our children to be like, oh my goodness, the first time they're exposed to like video games, like losing their minds. So we make a point to like take them to an arcade so that they can, be introduced to video games, but it's in a certain place. And it's like, once we're there, enjoy it, all the video games you want. But when we come home, we have home activities, family activities that are more, interactive. Or we'll take them to the movies, because currently we're in Mexico, and the movies are $1.50 in the theater. So we'll go to the theater a couple times a month. I know, it's so great. A few times a month, and we'll watch it as a family, and then we'll have a conversation about, what's, do we agree with it? Do we not? So everything is like educational, because sometimes the movies are great, but sometimes when they see the movies, I completely do not agree with the programs that are in. So it's like, we need to talk about this immediately. Let's flesh this out.
I just, like I told someone, I can't imagine giving my daughter, especially at my age, I know what I found on the internet. So it's like, I can't play like I don't understand technology. It's just that, you could teach them that. And I feel like I had this saying actually from my daughter, I actually shared this, is I used to tell her, is like, if something's making your spirit feel unwell, we have to start asking ourselves, why don't you just churn it off? Why are we not just looking away? I said, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not that you can't do this. It's that, do you want to do that to yourself? And I feel like it's having those kind of conversations with my daughter. I didn't have to fight. Like, she'll say, oh, my friend was watching this one, but I was like, but how do you actually feel after watching? She said, I'm not really sitting while we're watching. I was like, see, is the joke really that funny if you're just laughing a copycat? And I feel like that's really important to have those kind of conversations. And I know we're very spiritual people, so I'm very open with my daughter about those. But I even told her, I was like, we have to ask ourselves, when we're having nightmares, when we're feeling stress, are we inviting it in, or did it come into our space? And what are ways we can block that? Because that is such an important daily lesson that I feel like, especially some other kids, just like when they're talking about their mental health, it wasn't talked about enough, I feel like, in my family. That if I had to say one thing that wasn't passed down, was ways to help with mental health, how to really prevent depression, how to help when someone's having anxiety, and having more open conversations about it was one thing that I wanted to change and pass down, that I didn't get or see enough of, that I feel like if we could have improved the old method of homeschooling. But they were more concerned about making sure we were independent, working hard, got your finances settled. That was their three big goals. But I think one of our larger goals was looking into that too, of the source of where some kids are just getting really anxious. And I blame television. If I watched half these shows, I feel like I would be an anxious little child too if I was exposed that many hours. But that's just, of course, my personal thought. But I feel like that was one thing I could do as a mom, was have open conversations about technology. So I didn't hide it. It was just a very open thing since she was a young kid. I was like, nope, because I'm afraid this is going to hurt you. Nope, because that guy didn't use the right technique. That's not accurate information. And just saying those statements out loud has been easier as a parent. I don't feel as if we're fighting. I feel like when she hears that it's about you, I'm doing this because I love you, is why we're doing this, it makes it a lot easier to like limit like technology. Because she goes to someone else's house, I don't hear a word. When she comes back, she's like, they do this, but that's not what we do. And I was like, exactly, that's all we want out of it.
Mm, yeah. I love that. Everything that you shared. And Nina was like, I love that. Does it make your spirit unwell? I agree with that. It is about like your spirit and how does it feel and how does it resonate with you. Um, when I left my house, my parents' house at 18, one of the first things I did was like no news in my house or wherever I live. So I have not watched the news since I was 18 because I noticed as a child and a high schooler, me not to feel safe, and I thought that everyone was against me. But then when I went out to the real world, I noticed that there was more people. So for every one person that is doing something maybe harmful, there's like 30 people doing something amazing. But those 30 people are not being shown. And so you think the world is just filled with criminals and people that are harming and war and all of that because that's what was sensationalized. Well, at least when
And
I was
where were
growing
you
up.
when I was 18? I was
I
behind you, girl. It took me years to learn it was news I need to turn off. And I had so many things like on pause and I'll be listening to it. And I'd rather listen to affirmation songs or a podcast before turning on the news. And I even don't mind listening to news that's people reporting it and giving opinions and maybe putting things out there. But I definitely think the news, like the news channel you turn on TV, it's got to be the most poisonous thing ever. And if they're not doing that, they're just trying to make you buy something. It's not very an uplifting thing to start your day with. And I felt like as a teacher, I didn't like start my day with that. I actually found more articles online and websites and blogs to share with my students. I never really talked about the daily news with them.
Yeah, absolutely not. And then if there's something really important, I notice people love to share the news. So I didn't have to watch anything. If it was something that was really relevant, I had 10 people calling to tell me. So I'm just like, do I really
Or
need
we
to?
have alarms
I
nowadays. Those
listen
are
to
told
a
kids, you have
filter.
alarms. Like you're going to have an Amber Alert goes to your phone no matter if you want it or not. I was like telling them the things that actually matter are going to blow up your phone. Your weather app is going to
Exactly.
tell you if there's flooding
Exactly.
coming. You really don't need to sit down and just absorb all that. And there's a lot of bad things going on in the world
Yeah,
right now. Like I don't think that's how I should start off with. I like what can I actually get done today? Where what do I can I control? What can I contribute to? And that's why I love, volunteering and being active in my community because I'm actually, fixing things, actually being a participant. And I don't want to be just someone who's viewing problems going on when there's actions I could be taking about them instead of just watching far off problems. When there's problems
exactly.
with children in my own backyard, there's people who need clothes or their homes are on fire here. Someone, your neighbor might need something. I just think starting off with a world point of view and not a community point of view, it's very far off. And I think if you want to be an active person, you got to start with what's around you, like who you're actually interacting with, because you'll find there's a lot you can actually do about it. There's actually little problems maybe, but if everyone's doing it, I feel like that's how you make the world a better place. It's being very active. And I agree with you. I should have met you when I was 18 so you could tell me to turn off my TV too. It took me years to stop watching the main news channel every day, or honestly, political debates. I finally quit those a few years ago too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's so much going on here. But when I was watching all of that news, I I felt helpless and powerless and fearful. Like there's nothing I can do. But if I focus on myself, my family, my community, there are changes I can make. So then now I feel like hopeful. I have faith. I have, I feel powerful. I feel useful. So
There you
these
go.
are things that really um, basically feed your soul versus draining it. So yeah, no. And I remember my mother calling me one day saying, "What responsible person doesn't watch the news?" I'm like, "This responsible person, the person that has to deal with my mental state, my spirit, my, self-esteem and emotions. You don't have to deal with it. I do. So I'm have to protect myself." And it's just like, how do you know what's going in the world? I have you. You
And you
always
did
call
the
and
best
tell
way.
me. So why do I need to? Because you watch it every morning
And you'll call me.
or whatever. So yeah. Yes,
But no,
you'll
I can
call
agree
me
with
if
that.
there's something serious. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as we were talking about benefits
So,
of homeschooling, that's one of the things I do love that got passed down was I know so much about my family history, their roots here in Virginia. So I got so passionate about teaching and going to museums. I mean, there's so much I could say. I will not dump this all in there, but you're excited whenever your family can point at historical homes and say what our connection is. When have information about the tribes you came from the languages we first spoke, to honestly, it was crazy that some of the people in my family were part of the first integrated schools in Virginia, and some of their insights as to what they liked, what they didn't like. I mean, being able to hear those conversations in person was just impressionable. It helped a lot knowing what kind of educator I wanted to be, but allowing my child still to have her roots and not feel like she's got to give up her maybe cultural aspects of her life or not have a sense of identity. And maybe we don't still know what that's going to be, but I feel like it's nice when it starts off with a nice base and being able to let her know where you came from, at least as part of my job. But that was the other part that I told him I didn't like so much about me when I did go to public school is everything was from a very big world point. They would talk about wars and everything else, but they didn't really speak about what we did, individualism, like what was going on here. They don't talk a lot about their own state histories. They start up very broad. And I feel like kids, especially in my own classrooms, they ask you questions all the time about what is this? Who is that guy that they have a statue of downtown? Who's this guy? Why was it so important? He was a mayor because we have a first Black mayor is like one of the large sculptures we have. We have a lot of army sculptures in our areas. We're close to several battlefields that aren't mentioned in textbooks, but they're right down the street from our house. I mean, as a teacher, I'm like, that's where I should start first. It was all that was going through my mind. Why would I skip all this history if I have to drive by it? We literally have like a Monacan tribe museums like 5 minutes from my house. The city museums around the corner. I'm in our city museum. So, I feel like whenever I'm talking to my daughter, I love the fact that I am pointing out like this is what this is. This is why this building's important. This historic road was where most of our family grew up at. And that's, I don't know. I feel like as a homeschooler, that gives me like just a big high, honestly, as an educator, because I meet so many kids who don't know that much about where they're growing up at. Like they can't point at buildings and say this used to be the old factory which employed half the city before. They don't know facts about their home. And I feel like, you shouldn't wait till you're an adult to go to a tourist center to find so much information, because I do think that's a very normal thing I hear is that I never knew this about this town, or they never told me that's what that plaque was for. And I'm like, they should have started in school. They should tell you why these places are so important to all cultures and to everyone who lives here, why we have these. But I definitely think they start off with no offense to Christopher Columbus, but I just don't think he's that important in first grade when there's some other things to point out. I'll get to him maybe in middle school or high school. I'll point him out one of these days. I just think he's less important than all the history we have in the state, especially in the state of Virginia, that we are huge plethora of American history, tribal history. I mean, it was just a hot spot for so much. And I just feel like it's a missed opportunity to not incorporate that into the curriculum when it's so available and with a lot of it being free.
absolutely. I love everything that you said, and I Totally agree. Like start here and then move out as you go,
But
which
they're still high
is,
school.
it makes it more clear. Yes, exactly. So tell me a little bit about your business. You're mentioning that you're an artist, you're an advocate. Tell me a little bit about it
I always tell people I love my friends and
and what you
family.
do.
They are the best place to start if you're job searching, which I know a lot of people, that's what they were doing during COVID. I was trying to figure out how do I take a job where I was teaching kids in classrooms home. And it wasn't on YouTube like it is now, where it's like how to make money reading books and all this other stuff. Those videos were being made, I feel like 4 or 5 years ago. So I, at the time, was like, what can I do well? And I did start teaching. So one of my things is just tutoring a lot of art students from here, Japan, Canada, Greece. I got students from like around the world who were interested in learning art from me. And I did not know that was even a niche that you could take over. But it was just crazy that I'm thinking tutoring is for kids who people think need help. It didn't occur to me to tutoring in a homeschooler mind was, oh, well, I'm interested in this. I want to learn more. My parents don't know anything about this. So you get a tutor. And I love that about the culture of homeschooling is that tutoring is not usually seen as you're falling behind, but trying to get ahead. And my business even expanded at this point to evening hours because I have kids who are in public school who are taking my art classes after 5 p.m. because they said, I never had anyone teach art like this. They don't talk to us about building a portfolio, jobs you can have in the art fields. They don't tell us about artists who are alive, not dead artists. I bring up alive artists who are changing the art scene all across the country and the world. And they don't get that in school. And they were like, we love listening to you because we always find out something new. Or I let them do anime when so many people, like, I don't know why they're against animation, but it's like taking the world by storm, all these modern art forms, but they want to talk about, and I love impressionism and things, but I wanted to teach what my students were interested in, what they were asking me questions about. They wanted to know the history behind some of the shows they've been seeing, what these references, what are these tools that they're using to build everything they're seeing. And I feel like, it's great because it's been allowing me to incorporate science, even though I'm not a scientist. I always disclaim that in all my lesson plans that I'm talking about them. But I love that kids are more interested in trade skills. They want to learn more about resins, how 3D printing work. They want to buy a glow forge and their parents are like, what? And I love this generation for that. But I made a whole business just getting invested in them because they wanted more than what most art programs offered in their schools. Or if they're homeschooled, they're just saying, my parents don't like art. So they told me to find a teacher and I found you. And I'm like, that's fine too. Either way, however they find me, both ways work. But it's been a blessing to be able to keep teaching. I didn't have to necessarily go back to traditional, and I could keep doing online and really pushing the boundaries of online education. And I always do, a lot of mine are all live sessions. I still like talking face to face with my students. I think eye contact still is necessary to make sure you're getting points across. But I had no idea it was going to blow up like this over the last few years. So I'm feeling very blessed. And I think the only other second thing that most people notice on our site is because we're so involved with educational grants, murals come out of nowhere.
Amazing.
Thank you. And it was just one of those things that because of COVID, it allowed me to focus on it for a minute and then really grow it over time, because the mural one part of our business really just took me away. They asked me to start painting walls so that way kids felt more interested in their settings, to help them feel more calm, to help out neurodivergent kids, to help out with sensory issues. All schools in this area, and that's not across the whole country, are painted almost white. They're all eggshell white, every single room the kids go into. So one of the things that research was showing was that's not good. The kids should not be in these all white rooms with LED lights over top of them. It's not conducive of educational area. So I have been very blessed that a lot of our work is grant funded and research backed. By adding murals, I'm able to do history. I can do founders of buildings. I'm able to do colors, and that really help kids connect with the artwork while also making it a setting that they can sit longer in. They actually put out a lot of research that white's actually not a calming color, and that most kids don't want to sit still in an all white room for that many hours. And so making them feel more at home. is one of the things I was able to bring to with our business. So as an educator, I'm like a part-time painter going around changing up the scenes. But that was probably the craziest part about our business was the murals, because you don't think teacher to 75-foot murals outside of community marketplaces and painting entire doctor offices. You just don't connect the dots with that one. But it's been exciting. And honestly, COVID, I thought it was going to be the end of it, but it ended up being what all artists wanted: creative time in your studio to really pursue one of your ideas to the fullest.
That is amazing. I love it. So if anyone who is a homeschooler or still has their children in the public school system would like to get tutoring from you, so if you can share your website with us, so people who would like to get in contact with you and provide tutoring for their children. If you want to just say it.
I'm going to give it 1 second because it looks like it's pausing. So I know I always tell people too that the main way I made it easy for parents, it's my name. I am so uncreative with naming things. I feel like a lot of artists say that as well. And it was like, well, they already say my name when they have to address me. It's the first thing they ask when it comes to the classroom: what do I call you? So I named the whole business after my name to make it a lot easier. But it's also probably because I got referrals is how our business really grew. I didn't have ads or anything like that. It was just literally people say, find Artist Christina Davis and she'll hook you up with art classes. So it just ended up .com behind it, and it went from there.
Name recognition. So your name is your brand. That's amazing. That's how many people start off. That's fantastic. So I love it. So family, if you would like to get some amazing tutoring for your art, for your homeschool children, then please reach out to artistchristinadavis.com. So now I want to open it up to questions for the family members. So we're going to open it up. If you have any questions for Artist Christina, please drop it in the chat. So while we're waiting for questions, I have one more question for you. So if there is a family that is interested in homeschooling, what advice would you give them to get started?
I feel like a piece of paper and a pen before you go on the internet. I feel like you and I kind of touched on it already, that there's a lot of information. So you need to first find out what your goals are. For me, it sounds very big, but it's meaningful in my family that my daughter got to get to know her grandparents. She gets to spend time with me and her father and have a childhood really was one of the most important parts. There's going to be work for the rest of her life. All those things can wait. I think it was to share our culture, to be able to have memories with her, go places, trips. She's even put a few strokes on some of the murals with me, and I share my life with her. So I feel like that was one of my goals, is making sure I had a routine that was focused around her, that benefited her. It met her teaching and learning styles. So I definitely tell parents, like, start with a list of goals, and they're going to change every year, which as they should, as your learner grows. And then the next thing is just get a routine going. Worry more about what time breakfast is. Did they get dressed? Do they know how to make up their bed, put their clothes away? Are they getting organized? All those little things, you're going to thank me by the time they get to middle school. If you start with the basics and don't skip them, those are 9 times out of 10 where a lot of other parents, when they later on say that they struggle with at the beginning of the school year, is routine things that are just the basics. And it's okay to treat those as the lessons. That if you're talking about pre-K or you're getting started, don't worry about textbooks. Worry about just life and take down goals for them to obtain. Like, hey, buddy, lately we've been getting late to places with getting your shoelaces on. So maybe this week we're going to focus on your shoelaces. If you want them to be a faster reader, say, hey, buddy, we're going to spend this whole week just reading together. I think breaking down homeschooling into smaller goals is one of the things that we get to do as an advantage. That's what we can't do when you send them to public school, because it's one teacher to 20 or 1 to 15, and we can't take that individual time. But when you homeschool, they have you can focus on things that they're struggling with and help them succeed within a very short span of time. Normally, I always tell parents that if you see kids who say they took all semester to catch up, that's not a homeschool thing. You're allowed to put pause and say, hey, this is our goal this week. We're going to get this one done. This is our goal this month. If we need a month, we could take our time and accomplish these things. So I always tell parents, then worry about resources. You answer your own question if you have the goals. So if it's reading, you can say, we're going to the library 3 times this week. We'll read 20 minutes every other day. You maybe can pick one chapter book that you want to read by yourself, and this is a book we can read together. But if you just start with the goals first, I feel like you can fill in books, resources, online materials, tutors, online classes that maybe your kid wants to learn a foreign language you don't know. Then you start with, okay, let's go online. What's the best website for us to find a tutor? Should you be texting someone? Join a group on Facebook for support. But I would say start with the goals, routine, and the last one would just be support group. If you're in here, you're probably already doing my number one thing that I tell parents: find support. Not everyone has a family or friends that back them. I know I heard some negative comments when I tell people I homeschool, and I love being an advocate because I can debunk a lot of things pretty quickly, and I am not scared of a conversation or sharing facts or research about why homeschool is so great. But one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is build up a community. Join a co-op, get in groups, and talk to other parents who are doing the same teaching method you are. You're going to feel way more empowered. You're going to feel like, oh, this isn't new. You're going to find we'll share resources. We're very supportive. Most homeschool families do not mind telling you what they're reading right now, what websites they're finding are safe and which ones they don't like. I definitely think having a support group is super important. It helps with a lot of things, and everything else just falls into place if you start with those 3 things. So goals, routine, and find a support group. And everything else, I promise you, it's going to be very simple to fill in those empty blanks.
Absolutely. That was powerful, powerful, powerful. So if we can go one more time of where they can find you. So basically on Instagram and anything else, they would just look you up at Artist Christina.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I
Artist
linked
Christina
all that.
Day, and then they can
Yeah.
just go to this website.
Yep, because it was so open. I honestly made it more
Okay.
about what classes I have. You can
Excellent,
email, you
excellent.
can message me. So it makes it real simple to get in contact and start setting up your learner if you're interested in lessons.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent.
I love you.
So, well, thank you so much, Artist Christina. This has been so amazing. It was better than I could imagine, except for some of the tech. Nina says, thank you so much. I have another meeting. Definitely checking out Christina's site. Thank you, Nina. Fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much for dropping again all the nuggets. I have about 10 pages of, so hopefully family, you have been taking notes and getting all of this valuable information from this amazing homeschooler, second homeschooler generation, and teacher and artist and advocate, so much more. So you take care. Stay tuned because we have some freebies for you. Lamika said, thank you. I'm checking out your website.